Hi, Jonathan back with the second game in the 5th round in the February Legacy Challenge, playing against Grixis Midrange. This time I'm on the play because I lost the first game. I get to keep a 7-card hand here, although not a very exciting one. It's quite the swingy hand. My opponent could be on the all basic land plan. I could also just lose to one wasteland for my opponent. But on the flip side, my opponent could be on the non-basic land plan and just die to triple wasteland. Those games do happen. My opponent taking a mulligan to 6. I'm not sure where they scribe their card, top or bottom. And here my opponent is casting a Texan Probe. I'm going to Pyroblast this. I think this is the correct play. I do not want my opponent to know by triple wasteland. Of course, there are more powerful blue cards I could Pyroblast, like Baleful Strix, Snapcaster Mage potentially, or True Name Nemesis potentially. Snapcaster is not too unlikely to be in my opponent's deck, given that they had Reanimate game 1. Strix is guaranteed to be in the deck. True Name potentially, it's a very good card in fair matchups. So I'm Pyroblasting this. It's a pre-shock to my opponent's face, and they don't get the information of triple wasteland. So here's the Pyroblast. My opponent then going for the fetch into a non-basic land, which is great for me because now I get to kill the Deathrite and my opponent's land, and I draw another land myself, which is great. My opponent doesn't do anything about the Lightning Bolt, has another probe down to 15 already. Fetching for basic island and not doing anything. I'll play my second land, and my opponent does nothing for another turn. Really good for me. I could cast Mandrills here, but that would require me to tap out and delve away my whole graveyard, which isn't great. I do not no longer have Loam in my deck, so losing the wasteland isn't too bad, but I still have Mongooses in my deck, and tapping out isn't great here anyway. My opponent now has a fetch, and because it's a delta, so it can get basic swamp. I like the brainstorm here to maybe find a stifle. I would likely brainstorm end step anyway in order to cast Hooting Mandrills next turn. So I brainstorm into double ponder and a force. I'm going to put back one of the wastelands and the Hooting Mandrills. Keeping double ponder in hand versus Cabal Therapy is annoying, but that would require another Texan Probe from my opponent in order to hit. And even then I'm not sure if losing 2 ponders is worse than losing Hooting Mandrills. I could put back Mandrills and ponder, casting Mandrills next turn and then drawing ponder. But I think this is okay. It's highly unlikely my opponent is going to cast Therapy for ponder anyway. They might just have a Thoughtseize though, which makes putting back Mandrills a lot better. I'm going to ponder before the Mandrills. I could shuffle here, but given that I have another ponder and will be having a snare and force, it's great for me. So now I can play wasteland, tap wasteland and tropical, and waste away all my graveyard except for one of the instant sorceries. That's pretty good for me. So here's Mandrills. Keep the ponder for no real reason. As I said, Loam no longer in my deck, and my opponent has Deathrite anyway. So my opponent is casting Leovold here, which I'm going to force. I don't want that on the board. It's unlikely that I'm going to be able to trade with it because my opponent just doesn't have to block my Mandrills. So here's the force. Then I go to my turn. Cast the ponder. This is a very hard one. I think Winter Orb is a very good card to draw here because my opponent, well, they're not running out of lands with Deathrite Shaman, but they want to be casting expensive spells. However, drawing 2 Winter Orbs is really bad, and I don't think I want the 3rd wasteland at this point. So this is a shuffle. Drawing Lightning Bolt, which is great, killing the second Deathrite Shaman, attacking and My opponent has Submerge, which is somewhat annoying. There's a Strix, also annoying, and the third Deathrite Shaman, also annoying. At least I get to blow up another land. So here's Mandrills. I'm gonna keep one land untapped, and again keep Ponder. There we go. This is... Maybe I should have just kept another card, but it doesn't really matter in the face of the Deathrite, I don't think, and the bluff is pretty good. Well, it's more or less free. It's not really good, but it's something you can do. My opponent not attacking, because then they get to kill Hooting Mandrills if I attack. There's Pyromancer, and now things are slightly going to get out of hand. My opponent building a board presence. Fortunately, the Pyromancer isn't doing too much out of this moment. Interestingly, naming Spell Pierce makes me wonder why they think Spell Pierce is dangerous here. I'm not going to attack because I don't want to lose my Mandrills to a Strix. There's the Flashback Therapy for my Force of Will. And the fourth Deathrite Shaman. This is a very annoying board, and for some reason my opponent decides it's safe to attack with Strix here. I don't agree with that, so it means I get to swing back. My opponent takes the full 4. My opponent does not eat my fetch land with the activation on this deck with their Deathrite. I don't think that's too unreasonable for them not to do. I mean, I don't know their hand, but it's good for me that they don't, because now I get to cast Mandrills without using my Stifle. And this board is actually pretty good for me now, because my opponent is at 7 life. They do have a green source for Deathrite Shaman, but Probe for life, very aggressive. Of course, they do have Deathrite Shaman, Pyromancer, and a lot. True Name, a great draw here with my opponent only at 5 life and me at 15. They do need to block here. They can't take too much damage from my Hooting Mandrills. They're virtually at 7, but they only have... Okay, they have 3 creatures in the graveyard, but only 1 Deathrite Shaman activation per turn. So I attack with both my creatures. Let's see what's happening here. A very interesting block on the Mandrills, I think, but of course they're not... they can't afford to take any damage from that one. They're taking 3 from the other one already, putting them down to 2, virtual 4 with the Deathrite Shaman activation. So now I get to kill Deathrite, Snapcaster Mage, and 2 tokens. 1 token, excuse me. They drain me, and both my Mandrills die. They go to 2. I cast True Name Nemesis. They eat my Mandrills, and if I stifle this, True Name is a 2-turn clock. So I definitely do want to stifle this before they get to Spell Pierce or something. And now, if nothing crazy happens on my opponent's end, I should be winning this game. Of course, they do have 2 attacks. Interestingly, oh yeah, they can't attack into the True Name, of course. So now the True Name attacks. They have to eat something to not die to True Name. And Forkbolt, a great draw, because I get to kill my opponent, and in case I have some life gain, also kill the Pyromancer, which is what's preventing me from winning a longer game, I think. So yeah, Forkbolt, great draw. Pretty sick comeback, if you ask me. Definitely was very happy about this one when I was playing the tournament, and I still like it. Going back on it, my opponent made some questionable choices, very aggressive play, but yeah, here you can see how good it is to not have creatures that die to your opponent's removal. My opponent was forced to make unfavorable trades with the Hooting Mandrills despite the Submerge. And also Grixis Probe is just really bad, I think, in matchups like these. More or less Delver Mirrors, mid-range creature mirrors, whatever you want to call them. Daze is a very good card, although neither of us had any, and I don't think my opponent has any copies of Daze in the deck. But yeah, Probe is very dangerous in the face of aggressive beaters like Mandrills, True Name, or even Delver of Secrets, if that is in the deck. Thank you very much for watching, and see you for Game 3.